Welcome to Campfire Wisdom. Grab a seat around the fire and tell us your story.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Campfire Wisdom. We are in the heart of Rancho, Cucamonga, over here at HQ. And I've got some incense burning right now. It's one of my favorites, sage. And any kind of sage is my favorite. There's so many different kinds you can do. Some are really like very deep and heavy. Some are very light and almost fruity. But the one that I have right now is kind of a very heavy one. It's kind of just sitting here perfectly in the house. So I do not have a campfire, but I have a different kind of like influential smell and smoke that's kind of taken me away a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit about rediscovering passions. Yeah. Something that kind of led me here. I've been kind of thinking over the last week about like the journey that we have throughout life. It pulls us in many different directions. And along those ways, you're forced to compromise, especially, I'm not going to say that I'm the king of compromising. I will say that I am rapidly improving because I have a strong woman behind me. So that's a good thing. And I think that's a muscle that I'm learning to flex more lately. But in in some ways, when you get along and you're moving on a path in life, sometimes you got to let some little pieces of you fall off, and not intentionally. It's just kind of you're busy, you're focusing on other things, and next thing you know, you're changed, but you're changed in a good way because you're adding things from your partner, you're adding new things that you're enjoying together, but there's still those things that are a part of you that you can connect to easily, and that I don't know, just for me, put a smile on my face. So I'll tell you a little story from today. So I am tackling some honeydew things, and I know the honeydew list is probably something that most of you guys might be familiar with, but if not, it's that list of tasks that need to get done, and putting in some shelving in our linen closet to try to make more room for the baby that will be coming along the way here in the next 6-7 months. So obviously still in that preparation mode like I was telling you about last time. As I'm working on things, I'm like, what am I going to play? So, bumping the new Justin Timberlake album, which is fantastic. After looping that a couple times, I was like, all right, I need some more music. And I put in my personal favorite, Alice in Chains. And I'll be honest, I have not had a Alice in Chains jam out session in a while. Just put in the Sap album, just kind of loop that. And then I looped the Jar of Flies album. And I got to say, if you are not an Alice in Chains fan, I'm going to put both of those albums in the show notes because I know I can't play it on here. That would be a crime. I don't want to, do that to my favorite band and the spirit of Layne Staley. May he rest in peace. For those of you who are not familiar with Alice in Chains, they would do an electric album and then they would do an acoustic album. Then they would go back to electric and back to acoustic. And they did this several times. And for me, Jar of Flies is that album that just rings true. Like every song, it's just, they're haunting, they're deep, they're emotional, they're about this like cleansing conversation about, I'm sure Layne Staley was dealing with addiction as most of his songs happen to be about. But I think there's also parts of every song that you can kind of connect to about, everyone's got a dark side. Everyone's got like, issues that you have to deal with. And sometimes identifying them as bad and cancerous and whatnot, it lets you, obviously cut them out and remove them. And I think it's about that cleansing space, that clean area that you find when you do make a change, when you do move in the right direction. And man, Jar Flies from front to back is the best of the best. Me and some buddies of mine back in the day, we were in a band, and I was the front man, I was the singer. And at the time, I had long hair. I had, which is crazy to think because I'm actually bald right now, but I had long hair. We were like rockers, and we were in the style of like essentially alternative and aggressive music. And Alice in Chains was one of my big influences. And I can remember when the Alice in Chains self-titled album came out in like early '90s, early to mid, and it was the one with the three-legged dog on the front. And the radio station in my hometown in Tucson, 92.9 KFMA, was basically going to play the album from front to back. And me and my bandmates, Johnny Kane, Justin, and Jesse, we all just sat in his car and just listened to it. It may have been Kane's car or Jesse's, I don't even know, but we were just listening to the album start to finish. Heaven Beside You, again, all those fucking songs that are just fantastic. But I realize I haven't just had that jam out session, that moment where you just kind of rip it on your own. Uh, and man, it feels good. It's like you get out some of those toxins, and and for many ways, it's kind of like when you work out. I don't know. Maybe it's the spiritual workout, jam into some of your favorite bands. Who knows? I don't know. That's for me. It's always Alice in Chains. That's the one that just helps me connect to, in many ways, kind of a dark side of myself, but a dark side that allows it to be let go, to like revel in maybe what might be going on. Maybe it's a little bit of chaos. There's definitely a lot of change coming my way, a lot of change in life and everything, and I'm excited about it. But also, it's about saying goodbye to things. It's about I'm also getting rid of a ton of my stuff, and Gisela and I have been pretty good about limiting things, and I think as we're doing it, we're getting even better. So we're getting rid of more stuff and making more room. And again, that's a change. So that we're both going to have to say goodbye to things, but at the same time, you're realizing that you're going to say goodbye to some things, but you're also going to welcome new things, and you're also going to be attached to those things that are intangible, like music. Really connecting with that. So, yeah, I don't know. Send me your thoughts on some of your favorite albums, your favorite musicians, your favorite bands. Who are the ones that really light that fire under you? I'd love to hear about it. So, along the lines of rediscovering passions, my friends and I yesterday went to Bass Pro Shops. And Bass Pro Shops, most of you guys know what that is. It's obviously a huge outdoor superstore that caters to pretty much anything and everything you can do outside. It's fantastic. It's a great store, and I was joking about it today with my girlfriend and yesterday with my buddies. It's that kind of store where you're gonna walk in, and I don't know if this is the case. It's obviously not the case with every girl, so I'm not gonna paint every girl with that brush. But when I go in there with Gisela, after about maybe 15, 20 minutes, she's like, "Oh, okay, are we done?" Whereas yesterday, Matt, Nick, and I were inside that store for about 4 hours. So we were looking at guns, we were looking at gun cases, we were looking at bows, we were looking at fishing stuff, we were looking at hats, you name it, anything that is outdoors. We were just checking it out. So hell of a good time. Obviously, always fun to go in there, and it's like you're being a kid again. And then we discovered something I didn't know, but they have a bar there. You can actually go there, get food. I knew you could get food. I didn't think they had a bar. I guess I should have known that. Of course, maybe that should have kicked in automatically. But we got a beer there and had a toast to my buddy Nick getting his first rifle. So while we were there and we're talking shop with this guy, his name was Chris. So if you happen to go to the Bass Pro Shops in Rancho Cucamonga, this guy named Chris there, fantastic, amazing, really knows his stuff. But so we're in the shop, and we were taking up so much of his time asking about calibers, asking about different brands and this and that. And there were a couple rifles that my buddy was settling in on. So he was looking at Browning, and I think he was trying to decide which caliber he was going to go with. And uh, there was this one Browning. It was like a medallion series, and then there was this plain Browning. It just had like a brown wooden stock, traditional style. The medallion series was gorgeous. It had like a silver barrel. It had really nice inlays on the wood and a gloss finish. Whereas the other rifle was kind of plain. It was the standard um, black barrel, and then dark brown wood, but not an ugly looking gun, just plain, just standard. And when it's your first rifle, your first firearm, your first foray into this whole realm, you're kind of like, what am I gonna buy? What am I gonna do? Well, um, it was like choosing between these two, right? So obviously, my buddy Matt and I are kind of the guys who are like, all right, dude, if you're gonna get a piece, if you're gonna do something, and this is gonna be something that's gonna be like a legacy piece. This is something you can pass on to your kids, to your, just down the line for generations. Make it a good one. Make it something that you're gonna marvel at, that you're gonna love every single time you open the case, every time you put it in your hands, and you're like, I'm proud of this. So we obviously were pushing him into that medallion series, right? So at one point, Nick looks at me, and I'm holding the medallion series, and then I'm handing it back to him. So as I'm handing it back to him, he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful gun. I would be worried if I fell down with it and scratched it up and damaged it." And I, okay, I could understand that. For me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm the one that put the dent in it, so it's just a mark of ownership. And that whole conversation reminded me of a story from my childhood with my dad. So, in about the mid 80s, my dad bought this rifle, this beautiful Browning rifle. And the reason he got it off this estate sale. So his really good friend was an attorney, and he was representing the estate that was selling it. But obviously, as the attorney, you can't buy it because that's an obvious conflict of interest. So he turned my dad onto it. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Paul, you got to check out this rifle. It's Browning. It's engraved. There's wood inlay. There's engraving on the barrel. It's beautiful." So my dad at the time was entering the world of hunting with Gib. And so they were, my dad bought it, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful. I can't wait to use this." Well, as he was prepping and got a scope for it, and he realized, I can't take this out. He's like, if I fall and scratch it up or damage it, he's like, I'm going to cry. So he ended up buying like a cheapy beater rifle just to get him by. So he ended up buying this rifle that he still owns to this day, and it's beautiful. In fact, I will actually put it on my Instagram so you guys can see how intricate and cool it is. So definitely check that out. But it reminded me of something that my dad would have said. And so in that moment, I totally understood. I was like, hey, man, eh, I get it. So do what you're going to do. In the end, Nick bought the plain black barrel with the wooden stock and a super dope scope. And he got those two, for the price of what that medallion series would have been. So he ended up getting a great piece. It's definitely still a legacy piece, but something that he can, pass down in the future. So it was pretty cool. And I got to admit, being there, just it reminded me of, again, rediscovering passions. I talked to you a while ago about how I'm being that reflective person when it comes to hunting. I know I want to partake in it. I don't know to what degree, for the sake of the tradition of it. And at the same time, being in the outdoor store and just, yeah, I know there's a lot of people who have opinions about, guns and firearms and stuff like that. But let's face it, guns and firearms and all that stuff has a unique position in American folklore. If you think about Manifest Destiny and the Wild West, and just that's something that's uniquely American. Maybe it's not the best thing, and maybe there's a lot of aggression around that. Well, there was a lot of untamed world and untamed land during those times. People had to fend for themselves. They had to defend themselves. So I think that mentality never left. That mentality of self-protection, and that's the part of it that I embrace, because I want to be able to defend, protect my family. If I'm out in nature, I'm not going to do anything irresponsible, but I understand that Mother Nature is more powerful than me. A wild bear is more powerful than me. Animals are more powerful than humans. So I'm going to do my best to protect them if necessary. I'm not going to expose them to unwanted danger, but I'm going to make sure that I have the means to protect them. So I think that's why I see it as such a something that's so important for me, and something that I am rediscovering. Again, I grew up with guns. I grew up, being outdoors, hunting, in Boy Scouts, and it's something that I really enjoy and something that I'm really enjoying getting back into. So yeah, it was so much fun. So if you have not been to Bass Pro Shops, get there. And my suggestion, grab a beer in the bar beforehand, go with your boys, go with your girls, or whatever you're doing, and just hang out. Make sure you got a couple hours to go through the entire store because it is a blast. I want to do something new in the realm of camping. In the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be headed out to Death Valley. As you can imagine, the winter is the best time to get out there because you're not going to get roasted alive. You're going to get that nice, cool desert evening, a really brisk desert morning, and that perfect rise in temperature as you're kind of going through the day. It's the best time of year to do desert camping, like I was telling you a few weeks ago, because you're not going to get roasted. You're not going to have to get out of your tent by 9 a.m. Otherwise, you're going to die of heat exhaustion. So you definitely want to take advantage of that during the winter. And it's going to be a trip where Gisela and I are going to go, and I am going to do my best to try to get her on the show. So with any luck, it will be her and I sitting around the campfire talking about the future that we are endeavoring upon together. So look forward to that. Well, that about covers everything I wanted to talk about today. I want to thank you for joining me, and I also want to encourage everyone to send me an email. Don't forget, the first person that is not a friend or an acquaintance that sends me an email, I'm going to get you a sleeping bag. I'm going to buy you that first camping essential that you will need to begin your journey in the camping world. And I look forward to our next episode. We're going to get back to a little bit about some camping essentials, and we're going to talk about a camp knife. So I look forward to talking to you guys then. Thank you so much for joining me, and take care. Bye-bye.
Campfire Wisdom is brought to you from the hills of Rancho, Cucamonga. We'd like to thank the men and women that protect our national parks and forests. You make this journey possible. Theme music by Sean Cromwell.